Hello there, beautiful teachers, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show on YouTube just for you, private music teachers teaching instruments or voice. A lot of us teaching from our homes, some of us teaching in music schools. Everyone is welcome here. On this show, we do some musical warm-ups together. We talk about a special topic each week, and then we have an Ask Me Anything section. So if you do have a question about anything, just type the word question. It can be about anything. Type the word question, followed by your question. If you just start with that word, it helps me come back to everything later and make sure that I don't miss anything, because I hate missing things out. So if you are new here, a huge extra warm welcome to you. We are an extremely friendly community, so do say hi in the chat. And if you are new, then you haven't met me. My name is Nicola Canton, and I run a site called Vibrant Music Teaching, as well as a blog called Colourful Keys. So I'm all about including creative skills in music lessons and making the business side of our lessons function really well too. Today, though, we're talking about the creative side because we are going to be going through how I teach the 12-bar blues, my process for doing it, and why and when I include it in my students' lessons. That's after our musical warm-up, though, so let's get to that first. Alright, we're starting with our singing warm-up today, and we sing in solfa using these sight singing exercises. So the basic idea that I do with students and that you can do right here with me is to first go through it and just say the solfa. That's the first step with many new students. We would just go through. So we'll do that now. Try it with me. It goes do, re, mi, so, la, so, mi, re, do, re, mi, mi. Just going through and saying it like that is a great first step because it means that students can get comfortable getting their mouths and their brains around the syllables before they have to actually sing it. When you have students who are more used to this, they can sight sing it first before doing it with the backing track. But as a first step, I like to do it this way. So just saying the syllables and then trying it with the backing track support behind you. So we'll try that now. Do sing along. I'm not going to sing because otherwise I'll kind of mess up with the syncing with the audio. So I'm not going to sing along, but you sing along. I'm going to practice my Kerwin, I should say, hand signs while we do it. And we'll try it with the slower version of the track first. So this is in 3/4. So there's going to be a tonic chord and a starting note, and then one bar count in, so one measure, and then you start. Okay, let's give it a go. Don't be shy. Sing it out. You're only at home. You're not on YouTube. So sing it out in the comfort of your own home. Here we go. Okay, ready for the faster version? I'm not sure I am with my hand signs, but we'll give it a go. Okay, that was my little moment to prove to you that this is not pre-recorded. You're not being cheated, that this is live. And I mess up sometimes. Totally mess that up. I mixed up so and la and I just got befuddled there. Okay, thank you for that, Jana. Jana said the backing track is louder than my voice, which is strange. Hang on. Sorry if this causes a sound. Tell me if that's different or the same or worse. I don't think I've changed any other settings, so I don't know. Otherwise I can just turn down the track. But we only have one more to go anyway. So hopefully it's not too awkward for you. We're going to do the rhythm one. Oh, that's better? Okay, maybe that was the setting I changed. I had to reset my microphone earlier, so sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to practice this one first. So we do the different signs. We are doing the dark blue is 2 hands tapping. The green is the foot tapping. The heart is hand on heart. And the yellow is touch your head. Okay, so we're going to try this with the slow track first. Try to do the signs with the track as it goes. And hopefully, well, I'll turn the track down a little bit just in case. Let me know if that was better or if you just can't hear it now, but hopefully it was okay and we'll be able to try the faster track. So with these ones, when I'm doing them with students, we practice it actually counting first. So we just do it as 1 and 2 and like that. Or if a student's not at the counting stage with rhythm, we would do T, 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 T to practice, and then we would try it with the track. I'll turn the track down a little bit more. This is the last track anyway, so if you're having to turn it down, this is the last time you have to do it. Here we go. Messing that up there because I'm distracted by the audio issues, but I can usually do that one with my students, although it is quite challenging. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that despite the audio issues, and we're going to go into the main topic now. Alright, so today we're talking about the 12-bar blues, and the first thing I wanted to talk you through is why or when or how I use this. So there are many reasons why you might want to do the 12-bar blues. You may want to do it just because you don't do a lot of improvisation or anything like that with your students, and you want this as an improvisation activity. And it can absolutely be that in its own right, nothing else required. However, in my studio, I do a lot of improv in general, and I do a lot of more classical or pop improvisation, as well as some jazz as it comes up, but in general, I include a lot of scale-based improvisation, and so that's my way of being really consistent about including improv, which is something I'm really passionate about doing. The 12-bar blues in my studio fits in a different role. So for me, I tend to bring out the 12-bar blues when I need a student to wake up a bit. So I'm sure you've had this student. They're either in that particular lesson or in general for a few weeks are kind of like going through the motions. They're a little bit sleepy. They're not really engaging with what you're saying. They're not being rude or disrespectful or anything, and they're not like unenthusiastic about doing piano in general. But maybe things are a bit overwhelming in their life right now. Maybe in their personal, family life. Maybe school has a lot going on. Maybe they're in a hockey tournament and that's just taking over their brain. And so you're getting a lot of the like half open eyes from them, and you just feel like they need a bit of a shake up. That's when I bring out the 12-bar blues most commonly. So I love this activity for that reason. The way I tend to introduce it to students is by not telling them what we're going to do, because I'm using it as that like, hey, wake up kind of activity. I tend to just launch into it without telling them what we're doing. So whether I've done this with students online, so online or in person, I just say, hey, grab a piece of paper, or if they're right there with me, just give them a piece of paper and I say, okay, now write a C, and then I go on from there. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do by sort of drawing it on screen. So this is, imagine this is their piece of paper. I would ask them just to draw a C. Okay, and then I say, okay, now draw another C. And one more. Okay, and one more. So they're drawing them in a row like that. And then I say, okay, hang on, now draw an F. So I'm kind of pretending I'm just thinking of these. And another F. If you don't want to be as like acting-y and hammy as I'm being, that's fine. But this is the way I do it because I think it's fun. And now I'd like another C. And now I'd like another C. So I'm acting this out so you can get an idea of what it's like with a student. And now how about a G? And an F. Sorry, pen wasn't working there. And now two more C's. Alright. Then I tell them to put lines between each of them because they're going to be bars. So they put lines in, and it can be just as rough as this. I know this is a big mess, but that's absolutely fine. I don't even mind if it looks as messy as my on-screen version does here. Like this, and I say, okay, and put a double bar line at the end. And that's it. So that's our 12-bar pattern. And that's all we're going to work from. So we're going to play that pattern. And the way we're going to play it first is I'm going to have them do just the root in the left and some kind of chord in the right. Okay? So if they already know triads, great. Like if their hands are up to it, basically, great. I'll get them to play triads in the right. So as you'll notice, we've started in the key of C, so it's going to be all white keys, nice and easy. So I get them to start with just the root in the left and either the triad in the right or some kind of chord that's appropriate to them. So it could be an open fifth. It could be just a third. That would be, either of those would be fine. If you have a student that's further back at the beginning and you really want to do this activity with them, they can just play both hands in unison. It's just not going to be quite as interesting, right? But they're going to play the root and the chord. Just turning on my dinky little keyboard here, so it's going to sound like that, yeah? Just playing those together. I'm just going to ask them to hold each one for 4 beats. That's it. Each bar is 4 beats and they just hold them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and we play it through like that. So that's the first way they play it. And then sticking with the root and the chord, again, depending on the student's ability, I would either have them just play, say, 4 beats in the right with holding their left hand. So they've got a whole note or a semi-breve in their left hand, and then 4 quarter notes or 4 crotchets in their right hand with the chord. So they're just repeating that. So it would be, obviously they do it lower down. So it would be like that, and they just go through it, and we're practicing like that. Once they've then got a little bit more used to doing that, I say, okay, now I'm going to play something, don't get distracted by me. And they play that, whatever version they're doing. So they could be doing, like I said, 4 times in the right, just keeping it nice and straight. Or if they are a little bit more intermediate advanced, give them a rhythm pattern with their right hand. You don't have to keep it that simple. If they're capable of doing something more interesting, you know, specify the rhythm pattern you want to do, write it out for them, whatever works for you to give them an interesting right hand. And then while they're playing it, after they've tried it a couple of times, while they're playing it, I will improvise on top of it. Now, you do not have to be some amazing improviser to do this. In fact, simplicity works really well. All you need to know is the C minor blues scale. That's it, okay? If you don't know that, it goes C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, so a little chromatic bit there, B flat, and then C at the top, obviously. So that's your blues scale. Again, you can look at that up online if me calling out the notes wasn't helpful to you there. But you just mess around with that, and honestly, if you just play that scale, it automatically sounds like the blues. You don't have to do that much with it to make it sound good. So even if you're not a confident improviser, I promise you, you can do that. So they play the chords, they're the accompanist in a way, and I'm doing the improvising just a little bit. And then once they're used to that, before we get them to be the improviser, we're going to change keys. So let me show you what I do here. So I would tend to, I'm just going to actually clear all of this off. So we get another piece of paper, or if they've room on the current one, we write in the numbers. Now you've got a choice to make here. So you can go with regular numbers. I like to use Roman numerals if my student knows them. So most students of mine who are in secondary school already will know the Roman numerals. But that'll depend on your school system. Of course, it's easy to teach them to your student, and a lot of students actually find Roman numerals cool, as odd as that might sound. So I just tell them, okay, now we're going to write the same pattern but in numbers. So C is going to be 1. So they first just write out where all the ones are going to be, using the same kind of pattern. Sorry. I normally write my Roman numerals like that, so it's clear they're capital letters. This is going to be even messier than last time, but that's okay. And I just leave a gap here for those. They're doing the writing, by the way. It's really important that they write it themselves so that they're doing the activity. It's not just you talking and writing on a whiteboard or something. Okay, so they filled in all the ones. Now we just need to figure out what the others are. So we had F's before. What were those? They can count up and usually realize that that was a 4. I'm going to write my 4s even more beautifully than my 1s. Okay, and then you've just got 1 to fill in, which is the 5 chord. That makes it all sound fantastic, right? Really important to have that 5 chord in there, otherwise it's extra dull. Okay, so they've got it written out in Roman numerals. Oops, we forgot our double bar line. Oh my gosh, so rude. So we've got it written out in Roman numerals, maybe straighter than my lines, maybe not. And then once we're thinking of it this way, in the chords, in the numbers, that's when we can easily move it to another key. So I tell them, okay, now your 1 chord is now going to be E flat. Okay? Let's have a different color, shall we? That gives them a different color pencil. Your 1 chord is going to be E flat. Oh, maybe, oh yeah, sorry. I realized what I did. Okay. So, write in E flat everywhere the 1 chord is, or just leave it at 1 and remember that your 1 chord is going to be E flat. If your 1 chord is E flat, what is your 4 chord going to be? Okay, write that in. And then your 5 chord. And then they have the whole pattern. I'm just going to pause my usual flow here to make one little note. If I have a student who is intermediate and above, I would tend to have written this last part differently. Even when we were working on the C major version, I would have written this last part instead of this. I would have written it as G and then C and the double bar line and a first and second ending. Okay, so I would do the same thing in Roman numerals as well. I'd have a 5, sorry, and I would have the repeat sign here. A 5 and to turn around, so it would actually be a 24 bar blues. Now, I don't do that with a student who's like even early intermediate. It's, you know, they know what first and second endings are, but we don't want to distract them. However, if it's very easy for my student to do that, I would do it that way. I'm just going to take those away so we don't distract ourselves now, but that would be my approach to extending it into a longer piece. And you can always add that version on later if you want to, like redraw it and do the first, second endings. I know that's not the way a jazz musician would write it necessarily, but I find that the clearest for students who are learning classical music anyway. They get what a first, second ending is. We don't need to talk about it too much, and it all makes sense. So that is how I would have them write it out now. And now they've got it written out in the key of E flat. Can anyone tell me why I made them change it to E flat before they became the improviser? Anyone? Because I have a good reason for that. So I get them to write it out in the key of E flat before we swap, and then I'm going to take over their role, and we're going to swap back again later. But there's a reason we've changed to this specific key. Yes. Okay, so a few of you have answered. All black keys. Yeah, the minor blues scale is actually black keys plus A if you change to E flat. So you get that lovely chromatic note in the middle, the lovely blue note there. But, oh, that's not the blue note, but whatever. You get that lovely effect without much effort at all and with really easy fingering, because you can just use 2, 3, 4 and then put your 1 on the A and it all rolls together and is easier to find. So I change the key, E flat. Now I'm going to do the chords or some kind of pattern. Again, go with your comfort level. If you're more comfortable just doing it the way they did, with just like chords or open fifths and root notes or like octaves in your left and a simple rhythm pattern, that is fine. That will sound good. If you are someone who knows like some boogie patterns or whatever, this is the time to break those out and have fun with it. You are now the accompanist. You're on the secondo side of the piano, and they're going to improvise in the key of E flat. And then the final step for me would be to swap back and do it the other way around so that they get to experience playing the chords in the other key. Now, a lot of the time when I'm doing this, it's like a breakaway activity, shake them out of their comfort zone, shake them out of their funk rather, and then we go back to what we were doing, or we use this as like a couple of lessons to do something else. So it could be that we've done part of this activity one week just for like 5-10 minutes, and then the second half of it the following week. It could be that we do it all in one go because I'm just thinking this kid is not going to do anything useful for the rest of today because they're just too tired. So we do all of that and that's the rest of their lesson. You know, we were 5 minutes in and I realized nothing's happening here today. There's no point keeping going with just going over this sonatina or something or whatever we were doing. So maybe it takes over a whole lesson. It depends on the circumstance. But basically that's the loose format. If I then wanted to bring this into an assignment for homework and bridge that, there's an extra step you would need to take. So you would need to get them practicing playing just semi-breeze or whole notes in their left hand in that pattern. Hopefully memorize the pattern because it does make it a lot easier while improvising in their right hand. And the way I like to phrase this is to have your right hand answer your left hand at first. So to keep it from getting out of tempo, keep some bars from being longer than other bars basically. So they would just play a left hand note and then answer with their right hand. And then they go on to the next note. If they really get used to doing that, it's much easier then to bridge the gap and sometimes come in together or have more freedom. But we need that steadiness to be in place first. So that's the way I would usually do it. Another thing that's really useful to help with that is if you can get a drumming track going. So there are apps that do this. If you want a free option, you can just look up drumming tracks here on YouTube. So if you just look for drumming track 100 BPM, you'll come up with a few different options. Yeah, they're quite basic, but they're absolutely fine and they work and they are much better than a metronome for a job like this especially. So that is how I'd keep them in time. But yeah, just left hand and then the right hand answers it, rather than thinking about I'm going to do this pattern with my left and my right hand's going to improvise, because that has this connotation for students that they're just doing stuff all the time and they don't tend to build in rests. And you know, rests are important. They make it sound better and they also make it easier in this case to play. So left, right, 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 left, right, right, right. If your student still is totally haphazard with playing that way and you really want to pursue this solo improv idea, again, you don't have to go this far. You can just stick with the duet improv where you play the accompaniment or they do and one of you improvises. Absolutely fine. But if you do want to bridge this gap towards solo improv, and that's still working out to be tough, pick a rhythm pattern. So your right hand is going to play ti-ti-ta every time, or quaver, quaver, crotchet, or quarter, quarter, whole note every time. Oh, sorry, quarter. What did I say? I meant eighth, quarter. Every time your left hand's going to play first. So it's going to go left, ti-ti-ta, left, ti-ti-ta, or whatever. Choose the rhythm pattern. The more you limit it, you might feel like I'm not letting them be creative anymore, but you actually are. You're freeing them up because it's going to sound good, because things with good rhythm sound good. And if they're not able to produce that, it's not going to feel creative to them, because they're just going to feel stuck. And like, when basically they'll feel like when you do it, there's some magical missing ingredient. And then when they do it, it just sounds kind of bad. And they don't know why. And it's usually the rhythm. So yeah, that gives you a few tips for moving this towards a solo improv, if that's what you want to do. But again, I think this activity just by itself is absolutely valid as well. I hope that gave you a good overview of how I walk through this. We do have an article coming out about how I do this process at the end of the month. So if you want to read a written version, you'll be able to see that on the Colourful Keys blog soon. All right, it is time for Ask Me Anything questions. So if you have any questions, do ask them. I'll go back through the chat now and see if there's anything I missed. Yep, super simple. That's what it's all about. Because it's like this disruptor for me. Not that that's the only way to teach the 12-bar blues, or it's the only role it could play. It has so many roles it could play, and you can bring it into the repertoire they're doing it, find it in repertoire and stuff. But for me, this is the main way I end up using it, because it's just such a great way to go, hey, look over here, something different, and kind of shake students out of a bit of a funk or a bit of a mood or just tiredness. Tends to help. Side note, but the other thing that helps with shaking them out of tiredness, sometimes and they don't think about it, they don't realize they're thirsty, and taking them to get some water can really help. Okay, good, glad you enjoyed that. Edna, wrong comment there. Yeah, it makes a big difference just to think about it that way. Now, I don't think I missed any questions, so I'll get to the recent ones. Yeah, all good. So, Carrie, what company do you order your merch t-shirts through? I'm thinking of ordering some for my studio, and yours are super soft. Oh, the ones, like the teacher ones? So I don't order my student ones through this, but if you want the ones for the teaching ones, those are through Printful. It really only works though if you're doing like drop shipping like I am. My student ones, I have some here, I'll show you one. These are my recent studio ones, and these I think were just Vista. It might say on them. No, it doesn't say on them. I think they're just through Vistaprint or somewhere like that, somewhere similar. They're just Fruit of the Loom t-shirts, so they're like that. But they're regular cotton. They're not the soft version, because those are like a different type of knit. The teacher ones that we sell through the merch store, but these are just plain old standard cotton. Not that they're uncomfortable, but they're not like that super soft version that I get for you guys. Yeah, I'm always a bit hesitant about like laid out 12. It depends what way it's laid out. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. I shouldn't say anything, but sometimes when things are really written out, like if it's written out in notation, sometimes I think we lose like the point of something like the 12-bar blues, and that's why I prefer just a scrap of paper and they write it themselves rather than giving them some kind of printout or anything, even though we do have those in the library as well. Tina, so the thing about the blues scale is there is a major one and a minor one, and you can sort of combine them the two, but the most useful for most applications is the minor. So I would go with that, teach them the minor blues scale. And if you don't know what key it's supposed to be in, then teach them how to find it from a key they know, or how to find it using the semitones. Like teach them the pattern of semitones. Semitones are half steps if you're in the US. But yeah, I would go with the minor blues, and then if they come back and say, no, he said he wanted something else, like the teacher did, then you could teach them a different pattern, or sometimes it might just be the blue note, as in like in C major, just with an extra E flat, or maybe the minor blues is what they want. Oh yeah, that's one of those things in books that like the teacher needs to bring it to life then, right? It doesn't mean anything to a student. Again, this is a bit of a tangent. I'll just say it anyway. There's a video on the YouTube channel here about older beginner books, and it's turned out to be one of our more popular videos. It has quite a lot of views, and so we get a lot of comments on it from time to time from older students who want something that they can teach themselves with, and that is absolutely the wrong video for them because they need a teacher. So, you know, if that's the case with that book, it needs the teacher to make it into something. Otherwise, it's just a page of Roman numerals and students will just gloss over it. I mean, we know how many things there are on a page that they just completely ignore, even things within a piece like dynamics. So students are very good at filtering out stuff that seems extraneous to them. Okay, cool. I think I've gotten to all the questions. So I just want to thank you all so much for coming. I didn't explain this silly camera, but I like to put on something on a theme for our Ask Me Anything section. So this is using Snap Camera, which is like a little filter thing. And this is a Halloweeny one I picked today. I hope it gave you a little bit of a giggle and didn't scare anyone. And I hope you enjoyed today's show, the little tutorial. If you have any follow-up questions, do let me know. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week. Bye for now.